All right, guys, I thought today here that maybe I'd try to put together a small video. This, as you can see here, is my panel, and this is all set up for all the switches and a Dynon HDX system. So I hand cut all the panel pieces, fitted everything, got everything set up here ready to paint. I've split the panel into two pieces. This panel, this piece of the panel will hold some cabling that would make it difficult to remove the panel if those things were attached. So I've split this into two so I can remove the panel, at least lay it down on my lap if I need to do any work on the panel. So the first thing it needs to do here, I'm going to be using the VHT Wrinkle Plus paint. It's a high temperature automotive type thing. I've used wrinkle paint before on a couple panels and I kind of like that finish. So basically we're starting out with a red Scotch-Brite pad, and I'm going to go ahead and get this all roughed up and then get it cleaned off and ready to paint. I'll be back. Okay, so I've spent a little time here with some steel wool, or excuse me, with the Scotch-Brite red. And it's done a pretty good job of getting it kind of etched up a little bit to get the paint to stick. That's our goal. I also have a couple areas here, like around, if you can see where the rivets are right here, where I'm not really able to get the aluminum cleaned up right by the rivet. So I know you're all familiar with steel wool, but there's also aluminum wool. So steel wool on aluminum, you can embed some of your particles of the steel into the aluminum, and that becomes an issue down the road perhaps. So aluminum wool will not give you a difference of two metals kind of embedding against each other. So just a good usage of this aluminum wool, a nice big bulky piece, and going down around and over those rivets is going to clean up all that area in and around the rivet area before spraying. So aluminum wool sometimes a little hard to find, but if you ever need it, let me know. Okay, so I have the parts prepared. They're over in the paint room. We're going to head over that way. Here's a shot of the fuselage that I finished painting last week, and it's just up on some tables until we're get the gear done. There's some planes that a buddy built, fortunately has passed away. That was Larry Moore. He was a member of our club, and I'm taking his stuff down to the RC auction and Lebanon this coming weekend. So here we are, heading into the paint room, and you can see there's some other items here getting prepped to be painted eventually, and we'll get over here to where the panel is. So I washed the panel down. We did the Scotch-Brite on there and got that taken care of. Wiped this all down with acetone, letting it dry. And you'd be surprised how much residue you get off of your aluminum from working it, and you don't realize there's much on it. But on this blue cloth here, you can see each side of that was a wipe down, and then on the third wipe down, I still had more residue, and the fourth wipe down is pretty clean. So sometimes it takes a little more effort than one might expect to get the residue off. I have a Wagner heat gun here that I'm going to fire up, and I'm going to just kind of warm up the aluminum a little bit before I start to spray. In the past, I have found that just getting a little bit of heat onto the aluminum, the can says 60 degrees or above and less than 60% humidity for the paint. But I have just found that using this product a couple times, that going ahead and just warming up this aluminum just a little bit seems to get the paint to get adhered a little better, and it also helps start the wrinkle process. This paint is going to require 3 kind of medium to heavy coats of paint to get the wrinkle to appear. And it generally doesn't happen right away. It usually takes a little bit of time for that to start to appear. So we're going to get in. The can has been shaken up here for a couple minutes. For those of you who paint, you already know this, so don't worry about what I get into here. For those of you who don't do much painting, anytime you're painting anything, really an airplane or whatever, you want to try to do all your edge surfaces first. So to get these edge surfaces going, we're going to, first of all, we're going to go back here and fire up the fans. So that'll get our outside fan going here. We're going to get lots of air going through here while we're painting. So I'm going to make sure this is working. I got my black paint coming out. I'm just going to go around my edges, try to get all my edges the best I can. You can see that it's going to spray out over each other. It's really not a problem for this project. Just putting it right on there. Again, try to cover all your edges the best you can. And I'm going to spray this, first of all, kind of an east-west, overlapping just a little bit each time I spray. Now we're going to let that sit for about 3 or 4 minutes, and we'll come back to it. Some of you might be wondering, it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's no primer on this aluminum. Paint doesn't stick very well to aluminum with it not being prepped and primed. So this paint is designed to go on bare metal. I have tried it in the past on primed material, and it doesn't seem to work quite as well. I did have some kind of lift already on both primed and unprimed metal, so my preparation probably wasn't as good as it should have been. So we're going to pause here until we get to the second coat. Okay, so our 5 minutes have taken place here. Coming up here so you can see that the paint has just a little bit of an appearance to it, a little bit of a wrinkle starting. Let me hit the lights here and see if this will show it a little better. So that's what we have after one kind of a medium coat. See, it's just a little lighter there than other places. So I'm going to hit the second coat, this time going north-south with painting a little bit heavier, and we'll come back and see what we get. Okay, so this is immediately after spraying the second coat. You can see that it looks pretty wet. Looks pretty heavy. It's not how you typically would paint your plane. But this wrinkle paint, it needs to have a film thickness for it to start to do its thing. Also, this paint doesn't wrinkle right away. It's going to take a little while for this to really happen. And if we don't get as much wrinkle as we would like, notice this piece here is really wet. Remember, you want to spray all the edges. So I went around on the edges, and of course the overspray is getting on top, so this small piece has got a lot of paint on it. So patience is the key of painting. So it says wait 5 minutes. We're going to wait a good 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more on that piece. And we'll get the third coat. The third coat will be sprayed at a diagonal to the other ones. First one's east-west, this one was north-south. Now we'll do a diagonal, and we'll come back and see how that turns out here in a little bit. If the wrinkle does not start to set up within like 30 minutes or so, it may require a fourth coat, or I might take my heat gun and start applying the heat to start to set the paint, and that will help the wrinkles to start to appear. Here we are, we're back. So another 5 minutes has elapsed. I've been shaking the rattle can, and we're going to go ahead and do hopefully what will be the last full coat of paint on this panel. So I'll just give you a couple shots as we're going here. Once again, I'm just going to hit all the edges, come around, make sure we get all the edges as we're going around here. Getting them all on all of these pieces. I know I'm jumping around. Okay, so now we're going to try to hit this at a diagonal, and I will tell you, I'm going to go a bit heavy right now. Of course, we're losing some paint down through the holes and all that, we expected. Some of it's getting a couple different coats. Sorry, wasn't watching my camera. Come across there like so. And it all has a huge shine to it, which that will all go away. Let's catch the last piece here. And we're going to leave it at that, and I'll be back. All right, guys, here we are. Going to start over here on this side. You can see it is still, I've been at this now, I've let this sit about 15-20 minutes. And you can see on this side, we're still nice and shiny. But you're going to notice as we come across here, you're going to start to see that this has started to wrinkle. Now, you might want to know why this side started before the other side. And it simply has to do with heat. I did take my heat gun, and I'm going to warm this aluminum and paint back up once again. And you're going to see that once we get a little bit of a temperature onto this aluminum and the paint itself, you'll start to see it start to change here. I'm going to try to bring it over to the one side, and we'll kind of watch it kind of creep along here once it all starts to warm up together. The key here, like anything else, is don't get too close. Don't try to do a big spot at one time. We don't want it to go too fast and then not really cure right. But you can start to see there, it's starting to do its thing here. Now once this finishes out here today, and we get this all set up and it is all wrinkled, this piece is going to sit here for 2 days. We're not going to touch it, we're not going to move it. We're going to let it really do a final cure to get definitely a really nice even finish and durable, and hopefully it'll stay as it should. So I'm just going to turn this gun off here for a second, and you can just watch the, you can see how that all just is doing its thing. Paint was really pretty heavy in those couple areas there, but I feel certain that will take care of itself. Come over here and you can see how that paint is just not really spreading out, but the wrinkle part is starting to happen as it's taking from the hottest part and kind of, so aluminum's like a big heat sink, and it's moving the heat around and allowing that paint to start to get warm enough to be able to do its wrinkle. All right, that's it for now.